Welcome as you're logging on. I am Judy Bratt, CEO of Summit Insight. Welcome to How Commercial Experience Can Jumpstart Your Federal Wins with guest speaker Eileen Kent, the Federal Sales Sherpa. Come on in, we're so glad you're here. Today you're going to learn what it takes to navigate in the federal sea, what federal buyers love about your corporate experience, how to get conversations started. 3 keys to turn corporate success into federal wins, and we'll finish off as always with resources and next steps. Let's jump in. This is the 6th of our webinar series, and you can see the others on the screen here. They're all available on demand on the Summit Insight website. I'm Judy Bratt, CEO of Summit Insight. Summit Insight is a professional services company that specializes in working with established firms that want to grow your federal business. We believe that sales and marketing should be acts of service, and that's why we bring you this complimentary webinar series. It gives us the chance to get to know each other. And I hope you'll take the opportunity to do that with our links and resources and follow up at the end. We also are delighted to have the support of Leah Edwards, the CEO and founder of Transcendent Marketing. Transcendent Marketing is your one-stop shop for marketing and support in the federal arena. If you're looking for digital campaigns, if you're looking for support in getting your market outreach together, Transcendent Marketing is where they combine sales and marketing best practices with tested methodologies to create what they call smarketing. Focusing your sales and marketing goals from the start. It's your one-stop shop for reaching in your federal buyers from digital, social, calling, CRM management. This is the team that supports my company. And their key differentiator is that they can open doors in the federal arena with key players that you're looking to connect with. So our follow-up note will have links where you can also get in touch with Leah. Say hi, Leah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
We're so glad you're here. And with that, it is my great joy to introduce our guest speaker and my friend, Eileen Kent. This is a topic today that is right at the core of Eileen's experience. She and I met back in, my goodness, 2005, and we circled around each other and kept watching each other in the federal space for about 10 years till I found a project that I needed help with. Saying yes was the smartest move I ever made. Eileen has brought her wisdom to over 10,000 people in the federal arena, including helping federal contracting officers learn how to work with industry. She's worked with over 100 of Summit Insight's clients and led them to over $200 million in federal contract wins and led national sales teams to incredible success. And she's going to share her stories. And stories are the best way we learn. So industry calls Eileen the Federal Sales Sherpa. Eileen, welcome.
Thank you so much, Judy, for having me today. I'm thrilled to be here, as always. I love being with you. Looking forward to it.
Back at you. This is just the most fun thing I do. And with that, we're going to have lots and lots of interaction and chances for you to ask your questions. You are here, and we want you to get the most out of it. So please use the chat and Q&A boxes. Drop a hello in the box now. Let us know who you are, and others will be able to see that as well. So it's a little bit of chance for mini networking. Raise a hand if you have questions. Be ready to unmute. We'll have live Q&A at the end. You're going to get a survey moments after we log off. Please fill out the survey. Let us know a little bit about you and what's important to you so we can keep bringing you awesome content. And with that, get out your notebook. You're going to take action. Less than an hour from now, I'm going to ask you, what do you commit to do and when as a result of what you learned here? So if you are game and you're ready to take action, just put the word yes in the chat or the Q&A box now so we can connect and we know the two-way is working, please. All right, so come on in. Yes, thank you. We have yes and more yes. Thank you, Tiffany. Welcome, glad you're here. Let's see those yeses. Yes, says Jennifer. All right, let's do it. This is really important. This gives us a differentiator in our webinars between people who are doing death by PowerPoint and people who are here to connect. Thank you so much. We're loving these yeses come in. With that, experienced companies that have done awesome work in the corporate arena but have no federal contracts. In the federal arena, all kinds of things could be happening for you. So if these things are happening for you, I want you to drop a number, if these are true for you, into the Q&A. All right, so which of these are true for you? If this is true, if everyone says that we need federal past performance to win a federal contract, put the number 1 in the chat, the Q&A. If we're subcontracting successfully and want to step up to prime, does that count? If that's your question, put the number 2 in the Q&A. If people say contracting officers don't care about our work for corporate clients, put the number 3 in the chat. If we know that federal buyers have problems like our corporate clients do, but we don't know how to talk to them or who to talk to or what to say, put the number 4 in the chat. Let us know what your situation is. If any of these things are true for you, you're in the right place. And it doesn't have to be that way. Focus, connection, and consistency change the game for good. Welcome to Washington. If you're in a situation where you've never sold in the federal arena before, you're not alone. And so the idea of GovCon without a map can be incredibly scary, but there are hundreds of newcomers in the federal arena every year. And Eileen, you've been there. So what happened to you when a little company in Illinois, in your backyard, put you on a plane and sent you to Washington and said, win some stuff? What happened? Tell us your story.
Well, Judy, it was right after 9/11, and we all know, what was happening at that time, that the government was in a little bit of chaos in the sense of they were looking at a new Department of Homeland Security. We didn't know, FEMA needed offices, and I was selling furniture rental. So I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but we actually did, in my team in the Chicagoland area, did about 12 million a year, and we were a $65 million company, Judy. We had 7 or 8 distribution areas, and we were up against this gigantic prime, huge prime that was well known. And at the time, there were only 3 companies that did furniture rental on GSA schedule. And on a Friday, I was given the role of, you are now National Director of Federal Sales. And on Monday, I was in Washington, D.C. for the first time in my life. I'd never been there. So I land at Reagan National. I don't even think it was called Reagan National at the time. I think it was just called National. And I flew in, I got my rental car, I drove downtown DC, and in the past, I had been literally cold calling and selling and managing a team that would blitz and call, walk in the halls. That was our way of selling.
That was before 9/11.
Yeah, and here we are after, and really that's all I know. So I go into the streets of DC. I park my car, I go into the streets, and of course I grab a cup of caffeine courage. I can't help myself. I'm gonna get some coffee. So here I am with my coffee. And I go, okay, so where do I begin? So I grabbed, back then was a Yellow Pages that was at the phone booth, and I brought it to the table where I was having my coffee. And I opened up to this blue section, and it had a org chart of the United States government. And so I picked up the phone, and of course, the first phone call I made was White House.
And
so I started at the top. I might as well, right? So I called the White House, and they actually connected me to a woman named Jackie, who was kind to me. And I said, "Do you guys ever do temporary needs?" Blah blah blah. She said, "Sometimes, but I'll take your information and we'll follow up later." And so I go to the next 2 boxes on this org chart. The next box I call, and I'm like, House?
Like the House of Representatives?
Yeah. So okay. Like White House of Representatives. So I get forwarded to a guy named Bob. And this Bob gentleman answers the phone, and he says, and I have a flip phone at this time, Judy, so it was really high tech. So this guy goes, I tell him what I do. Hey, I do rental furniture. He goes, rental furniture? What kind of idiot would rent furniture? I was so shocked and demoralized. And my natural reaction when someone is that mean to me, I laugh. I burst out laughing. I said, I go, well, what idiots in town rent? You obviously know what I do. And he goes, call the Senate. Here's their number. So the third phone call, this guy picks up the phone, and this is my third call, 5 minutes. My coffee is still got some foam on top of it, right? So the third call I make, the guy answers the phone, furniture. And you're my guy. That was my comeback. It just popped out. You're my guy. And he goes, I'm your guy. I said, furniture. You're the furniture guy at the Senate, and I'm a furniture lady who offers furniture rental. And the House of Representatives said, you idiots rent furniture. And he goes, we do. Come and see me. Click. So in 5 minutes, I've got an invitation. Again, never been to DC, Judy, never. So I run out into the street and I walk up to a cop and I said, do you know where the Senate's located? And he points at the Capitol. Duh. And I'm like, ooh. So I run over to the Capitol and they go, the Senate's not here. You got to go over to the Dirksen building. It's over here. So I run in, and remember, this post 9/11, I don't know if I can get in this building or not. I walk right through the, they had the metal detectors. They look at my ID and I said, I'm looking for a guy named Dave in furniture. And they said, oh, Dave, yeah. It's 4 doors down that corridor. And I'm like, and I can just walk right in? Yeah. So I run down the hall and I'm like, I'm looking at security. I'm like, is it this door? No, 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 one more. Is it this door? No, keep going. And like this, they're like, yeah. So I knock on the door and the person peeks out their head and I said, I'm looking for David. And he said, Dave's not here. So they did this whole Cheech and Chong routine with me, and they started laughing and they opened the door. There's Dave and there's Bob, the guy from the house, in the same room laughing at me. And they said, come on in. And Judy, darned if I didn't get 75 leather chairs like this delivered to the Senate within 2 weeks.
Because they need
2 weeks, and it had nothing to do with past performance and had everything to do with, Eileen, it's Dave. Yeah, listen, I need 75 chairs exactly that look exactly alike, same height. We're doing some hearings and we don't have matching chairs, and the senators will kill me if they're not the same and your competitor doesn't have them. So within 2 weeks, I was delivering chairs to the Senate, all because of Eileen Kent goes to Washington. So sometimes it just takes pure cold calling and make this thing happen.
That is remarkable. I want some, whatever fairy dust you've got, I want some. Now, things grew over time in the time you were working for Brooks. So what other departments or agencies had eventually, over the months that followed, became Brooke Furniture contacts? Certainly the winning work with the House and the Senate, that's a very nice piece of credibility suddenly, right? That must have opened some doors.
Right. Well, that ended up causing me to be a little bit more brave more than anything. So I traveled to LA, San Francisco, San Diego, Dallas, Atlanta, DC, and Chicago, back around again. So I started to think of the way I did it, because I had no training, Judy. I had no details on who buys what I sell. I was going with the sheer 17 years of sales experience and the 8 years that I had been selling in commercial for Brooke. So what I basically did is I started to think, okay, I sell to real estate in the commercial world, C.B. Richard Ellis, Charles E. Smith, right? So I'm thinking, who's the commercial real estate for the federal government? Public Building Services. Who does emergency? FEMA. So I decided, Judy, I went to the areas where our distribution centers, where we had warehouses of furniture, and within 2 hours of those locations, I went to all the Public Building Services offices of the building, and I went to all the FEMA locations, and in the news, TSA was setting up 400 locations. So I was going to all the airports. So I just went to each of those areas and focused on those and literally walked the halls of those buildings. And I did whatever it took to get in a building. I'll give you one quick story. In Texas, I wanted to get in because I was hearing that Homeland Security and INS might be coming together because they were tucked underneath. And I got in line, Judy, at INS. I got in line in the INS line.
For the visas?
Because I didn't
Got in the visa line?
building. Yeah, and a security guy walked up to me. There I was in my little suit and my briefcase, and he's like, "I don't think you belong in this line." And I said, "Well, I want to respect your rules." And he said, "Come here. What you looking for?" And I said, "I'm looking for the facilities team." He goes, "Oh, that's Holly. I know her. Let me call up. Hey, Holly, I have a lady down here that wants to talk to you about." "Oh yeah, go right up. Let me give you her office, and I'll walk you through security and take you up to her office." And then within 24 hours, I did a presentation in front of the whole facility team for Region 7 for INS. So not everything's going to turn into business. The idea here is to get in front of as many people and to do lunch and learns or conversations or capabilities briefings, because if they can't do business with you, they're going to start to tell you about other people they know. And I love this picture here, Judy, of DC, because when I started selling in DC, it was winter time. And every time I came to DC, they got dumped with 10 inches of snow, 12 inches of snow. So every time I came to town, even in the summer, and did my rounds, people say, "Don't come, Eileen, you're going to bring your Chicago snow." So we would have a running joke too. So I would just get out there and repeatedly visit people. And I acted like I was a reporter trying to get a story. Who are you working with? What do you prefer in terms of the types of furniture you like? Back then, we didn't have the data available for us to dip. We had to ask people, and it would take 8 to 10 conversations, sometimes face to face, before they would open up, before they would trust you enough to tell you, "Yeah, I'm using this 8A contractor, woman-owned business. She's down the street from our office. You should go talk to her." "Oh, I got it." So you start to kind of network with the people. For me, it was facilities, right? And I would start to network with the people who were selling to them as well. And I would create mini networking groups in each of those territories. So I would go to LA and I had a construction guy, a flooring person, a windows person, right? And we would get together on a Monday, we'd share leads, and then we would all fan out and sell for each other. I had a group in DC. Another furniture company, a flooring, a carpet, a construction, an energy person. And it was like I would go from town to town in my rounds for that first year. And I created a base of friends and networking partners. And because I couldn't be there all the time, they were my eyes and ears. And then I would give them leads too. So it just starts to blossom, but you got to start with the areas that you know, the types of people in commercial that you sell to. So if you're selling health records and you need to talk to IT team members, if you're selling training or recruiting, you need to see HR. The federal government has that too. So if you don't have data, you can at least reach out to those end users or go to their association meetings and then start creating mini networking with other vendors who sell to them. So that's what I did my first year, and it took me a year to get my really first giant deal.
And you were working though full time. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
This wasn't a part-time thing. That wasn't sort of a couple of hours a week squeezed in between doing something else. This was it. And the company hired you as a dedicated person to do the job. There's a lot of really great lessons to unpack. One is determination. A second one I love is that you thought about who are the people that I do business with in the commercial sector. And so who are the people in the federal government who have responsibilities and problems most similar to the people who love me now? When you think about who the corporate customers were that Brooke was serving back then, can you think of a couple of the marquee name companies that they were serving or that you had worked with before somebody set you up and said, do federal?
Right. So the big deal of the year in Chicago back then was when Boeing moved from Seattle to Chicago.
Wow.
And so when they relocated, they built out a building here in Chicago. They actually built a building, but they needed temporary offices. So we helped them set up those offices and get them going. So when I pivoted and I was asked to start selling to the feds, that was a name brand prime that people recognize. I also had worked with Chase Bank, lots of law firms that people would recognize, like lots of, R.R. Donnelly, lots of large businesses that they would recognize. So I just went in there with my stories of, hey, you might not have worked with me before, but these name brand companies have all worked with us. There were a lot of also startup companies that were popping up everywhere and getting their VC money. We were doing a lot of their setups in San Francisco, as well as Chicago, all the little startup areas that were popular too. So I was able to, name drop those companies as I went out there to make them feel more comfortable. Oh, you worked with Boeing Move? Because that was like the big news item of the year at the time. So it was easy to talk about it.
I love one of the other lessons as well, to think about where you have footprint and think about the customers you're already serving. The federal government has employees and offices and departments and agencies and sub-agencies in every single state, every single region. And so thinking about where do you already have happy people now? People talk to each other. And so the ability to say, hey, I'm already doing business in your hometown with, that makes people feel
Yes.
comfortable. And I remember you saying that you did that Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco, you made the rounds again and again and again.
For a
And so
year.
in our regular business, we usually, even if we're doing it electronically these days, we're still getting out in person. We're making our regular rounds. So looking at where is there federal business, federal humans I can help in places where I'm already showing up for my corporate business. So Eileen, you've given us a dozen really powerful clues and cues. And so if Eileen is talking about stories that are resonating with you, please drop your comments in the chat. In the meantime, these folks are asking the question, how can we trust you? We don't know you. Why should we talk to you? There's this huge gap between what we need and what it is you say you can do. Experience, your stories help lower your federal buyer's perception that you're going to be risky. Your federal buyer is the most risk averse life form on earth. They want to know that you've solved their problem for someone who looks just like them yesterday afternoon. So the closer you can come to demonstrating that, the more their blood pressure goes down. Federal buyers have everything on the line when they choose you. Not just the mission of the agency, but their personal career, their opportunity to have a file filled with good performance when they come up for competition with the guy in the next cube. All of that affects their ending retirement salary. All of that affects their personal security. One bad choice of a vendor, one black mark in the file can follow them for decades and have an incredible impact. On the other hand, we as vendors help them shine. And being able to bring examples, say, we're going to be the safe choice, that opens doors a lot faster than all the small business certifications in the world. So, Eileen, can federal buyers consider commercial experience? What is your story on that?
I have a couple. There's sometimes when you're going into this marketplace and there is a name brand that's so strong, like Kleenex or something, so well known, and in you come not a newbie to the industry. You might have 10, 20 years of experience, but somebody else has been known for a long time. So before I tell a quick story, Judy, I do want to say there's something you can say for pushback. And if they say to you, listen, I already have someone, I'm working with the name brand. And you can go, well, you always need a backup. Put my name in your phone. And then they'll say, well, we already have a backup. Well, you always need 3 bids. So let me help you out. I never let that one go because I like to ask my customers, especially the end users that might need you in a pinch, please don't hang up from this phone right now until you put my phone number in your phone. And then if you have this problem, put that problem, like I would put, if you need furniture fast, if you're buying it or if you're renting it. I can even find people that will sell it to you, the stuff you're looking for, because I know everybody. Eileen, Furniture Fast Kent. You don't even have to remember my company name. Furniture Fast. Just put me in your phone, and whether you use me or not, if you're looking for something, I'll help you. So that's a way to build that trust that Judy is talking about, because you're already confident you can save the day if the other guy's not calling them back, right? It might be a Saturday and they're trying to call their current vendor and they're on a vacation or something. So on to the next, and that could be you, right? So in terms of using commercial experience, first of all, if they needed you fast, they could sole source to you right there on the spot using the word urgency without any proposal at all. So they won't care about experience. Do you have 75 chairs in stock now to deliver in 48 hours? Yes. Then here's my credit card. Let's go. You know, so in some cases it could go like that without ever needing any past performance. Okay. But when we're talking about higher profile projects that might run into a situation where they know that people are going to double and triple check the file after the fact. Okay, so in a particular situation, I was calling on TSA. I was actually going all over the country to all the different airports because they were building all these, you know, offices suddenly, and all of the people that were running them were brand new to TSA. They had come from commercial and they knew our business because they were facility managers. And they were like, Eileen, I can't use you because DC won't let me. And I go to the next airport, you know, I go to San Diego. Eileen, I can't use you. I want to, but DC won't let me. I'd go to Chicago. Can't do it. DC. And finally, I kind of put my foot down, and about the 12th come back like that. And I said, who is Mr. or Mrs. DC? And the person in Dulles said, and they said the woman's name. And they said she actually works out of our new headquarters on Jefferson Parkway or Highway there in Crystal City. So I called her and I said, I'd like to meet with you because I understand you're Ms. DC for TSA. And she says, I sure am. And so I flew out there so excited. In fact, I took my boss with me too, Judy. I was so excited. And she wouldn't even let us up to her office. There we were in the lobby showing her our brochures and what we were capable of doing. And it was a lobby appointment. I flew and brought my boss with me.
Your brain must have been just going the whole time.
I'm toast. So, but she had asked a real critical question. She said, you know, this all looks, you know, nice and everything, but where were you? Because I competed this on GSA. I said, we just got our schedule and we're the third vendor now on schedule for furniture rental. And we missed that opportunity because you ran it on GSA. And she, oh, that makes sense. Okay. She goes, listen, do you apply every month's rent toward the purchase? And I said, yes. And she freaked out because she had ordered 485 locations of furniture for 4 years from my competitor, and not a penny of it was going to go toward the purchase. It was all going to get picked up in 4 years.
She must have been furious.
She was freaking out. And finally she said, listen, here's what's going on. She goes, the reason why I can't take you upstairs is that other company, their project manager shares an office with me. So you know who Mr. DC was? That project manager that worked for my competitor up there, right? And she said, listen, it's too late for me, but I'm part of Homeland Security and I know the whole Homeland Security team building out their new headquarters. So I'm going to walk you over to them and I'm going to stick it to that prime that stuck it to me and give you to Homeland Security and recommend you. So, and I went to see Homeland Security and I met with the team, and this was during snowstorms, and it was during level orange when DC was all scary. They had the Humvees out at every single one of the monuments, and we were meeting with them covertly, going over their space plans and stuff. And we delivered their first 30 workstations, but I couldn't win it without past performance because this was going to be public. It was going to go through GSA for the first time. And he said to me, listen, Eileen, do you have any past performance? And other than that small deal that I had over at, at the Senate, Dave at Senate, I said, to this scope, I said, well, I moved Boeing from Washington State to Chicago. I set up their offices. He said, okay. He goes, when this bid comes through GSA, I want you to put that past performance in there, okay? So the bid comes out on GSA, and I open it up and I go to the past performance, and this is what it says, Judy. You must have past performance with the federal government, similar size and scope, or just as equally rated will be a commercial name brand prime that we'll recognize.
Wow.
He cracked open the door for me to slip in that Boeing past performance, and I got him. So it's the pre-selling you have to do to let them know what your past performance is, and they will craft the past performance if they want you toward you.
That is so powerful, but it doesn't happen if they don't know you. And so there's a lot of relationship building. Past performance lowers risk and begets future wins. I mean, real life story less than 2 years ago, American Fashion Network, woman-owned company, about a $5 million company in New York State, had Jackie, then Wilson, now Ferrari, tells the story, and you can have her tell the story on video. It's really funny what it was that got her thinking about government contracting. But when they had a small contract doing masks, and that was enough, and they had lots of commercial experience in designing and customizing all kinds of garments and made in USA, and that was a big value for them. And so when the United States Marine Corps was looking for physical training uniforms, that commercial past performance gave them a tremendous advantage and was a major factor in them landing a $46.8 million contract. First time out.
Wow.
And so I would love for you, and if you're listening to this, to hear Jackie tell the story. It's fun, it's interesting, and I hope that you will listen. But past performance begets future wins. That corporate experience really starts to make our federal buyers feel comfortable. Eileen, talk a little bit about what it is that our experience can tell us and help us say no. Just because we have corporate experience doesn't mean we have to say yes to things. Give us an example of a time when somebody said, I want a thing, and you said, nope, nobody can do this.
Yeah. Right. Homeland Security needed 100 workstations in less than a week. And if you've ever tried to put together workstations, they're like tinker toys, Judy. There's lots of parts and pieces to them. So what it takes is a CAD drawing, someone to measure the space, build a CAD drawing, and then pick all those pieces out of their warehouses, ship the right parts and pieces, and then have someone assemble them on site. And I was called by GSA itself. Their furniture group was buying more furniture, and they came to me and said, hey, Eileen, I know that Homeland Security was happy with you with those first 30 workstations. They'd like 100 by next week. And I said, well, do you have a drawing? And they said, no. And I said, you don't have a drawing. Can I walk the space? And they said, it's not available to us. And I said, you want me to write a proposal, and it's due Tuesday, because she was calling me on a Thursday, proposal due Tuesday for delivery Friday, 100 workstations. And I said to her, someone's got to be packing the trucks right now, because no one has time to get this together. From my experience, it was like an impossible job unless they had a truck filled with 100 workstations right outside their office ready to go in. I kind of pictured that as, you're asking me to write a blind bid. Obviously somebody else has this deal. And so what happened was she goes, no, we don't have the drawings. We don't have anything, but we need delivery by Friday. And I said, okay, listen, I will send you a quotation for Tuesday, because obviously you need something for the file. So I'm happy to help you. So I sent in my quotation, and when the bids were due, it was around 11, I got a call at 11:01, Judy. And the project manager said, Eileen, on your proposal, it says, when you get the drawing, you need 10 days for delivery. And I said, that's right, because that's what it's going to take. And they said, but Eileen, we need it by Friday. And I said, I know. I wrote you a bid so that you can move on with the current vendor you're working with. And they said, no, no, no. Eileen, can you deliver on Friday? I said, no one can deliver on Friday if they're in the position I'm in without a drawing. And they said, well, you lost. And I said, is this the point where I get a debriefing? And they told me I was $8,000 less than everybody else. And so she said, but somebody else says they can do it, so we're going to give it to them. And I said, listen, call me on Saturday if you're struggling with anything. I'll be here for you. Sure enough, she calls me Saturday. This is a disaster. And from now on, we're going to place orders directly with you for this client. We're going to give you 10 days notice from the drawing, and that's that. So you might lose the battle, but if you do the right thing, you're going to win the war.
Fabulous. Following the rules really matters. When I was thinking through what it is about corporate past performance or experience, and I've had people in the federal contracting layer have all kinds of ideas about, well, past performance is this, or past performance is that, or past performance has to be with the government. I went, fine. I went right down the rabbit hole. I said, fine, where in the federal acquisition regulations does it define what past performance is? Pada, here you go. Federal Acquisition Regulation 42.1501 lists here are the kinds of things that the buyers are supposed to consider. Nowhere does it say that the only thing they can consider is federal contract performance. Now, the official place where federal contract performance is stored and entered is the Contractor Performance Assessment Reporting System, which you'll hear people talk about in the abbreviation CPARS. But official doesn't mean only. The evaluation, there's a list of things that they should consider, and past performance, just like Eileen said in her story, need not be evaluated if the contracting officer documents the reason past performance is not an appropriate evaluation factor for the acquisition. Contracting officers have a lot of discretion and flexibility. That means that if their choices lead to a failed acquisition, it also all lands on them. But they have a tremendous amount of flexibility to interpret what they need in order to feel they've chosen the right person. So your ability to get in there, get known, and make friends is super powerful. So the official source, CPARS, you can find information at cpars.gov. And once again, understand that government officials use multiple sources of information when making award decisions. There it is on a .gov site, which is the only definitive site you want to be getting this information from. Read it and find out more. The information that's in there is private to federal buyers and the contractor itself. So if you can't go in and check your competitors' CPARS rating, but you can look at yours. And if it was only adequate or satisfactory, you can go back to your contracting officer and say, hey, what was it exactly that you would have needed to make this exceptional? There's a conversation for another day, but this is where CPARS is, and it's something you need to be aware of. It's a system you will be playing in once you start to win prime awards. Oh, wait, but if I'm a subcontractor, what about that? Starting soon, according to a Federal Register final rule that was published in August of 2022, the first tier of subcontractors will now have the opportunity to also have performance recorded in CPAR. So watch that space. Eileen, you said you had a couple of other things to watch out for that are coming up related to CPARs. What are you seeing and noticing in the federal arena these days?
Yes, CPARS is one of those things where it's kind of a chore at the end of a contract for the project manager and the contracting officer to put their feedback in on how they thought you did. Now, what I would do is start to hypnotize them from the very beginning on what's the difference between satisfactory delivery in your business versus very good in your business versus exceptional.
Outstanding and then exceptional.
Exceptional. So what we're hoping to do is shoot for exceptional. And if we get outstanding or very good, it's better than a satisfactory, right? Because they're starting to use the CPARs right now as criteria for even trying to come to the table to even be considered for long-term contract vehicles. So you need to really look at this and start teaching your team, we strive to be exceptional, and start saying that to your clients, making your team say it out loud. Ask each of them to define what makes my role exceptional, the difference between satisfactory, very good, outstanding, exceptional, and striving to exceptional and constantly saying that to the customer. Imagine if you were saying that to your customer, even if you made a mistake. Listen, we strive to be exceptional, and I want to really fix this situation. So how can we turn this around and make this right by you, for example? Figure 6 months down the road, they're writing your CPARs, and they keep hearing in their brain when they think of you, we strive to be exceptional. We strive to be exceptional. They might give you an outstanding because they don't think you were exceptional. But again, most of them start at satisfactory as they deliver. So we want to get them to give you a higher rating if possible. And you have to set the tone and the parameters and educate them on what they are and your team. And you know, like in Ted Lasso, Judy, where they have believe on the door. I want you to put the word exceptional above everybody's door and get that in everybody on your team.
And if you haven't watched Ted Lasso on Apple TV series, you need to watch Ted Lasso. I've only just started watching it now, and I'm inspired. Eileen, that's exactly right. The whole team has to be on board. So make this part of your goal with every one of your federal prime and subcontracts. What do federal buyers actually think and talk about when they're considering past performance? I found something really valuable, and I invite you to look at this recording with the Federal Acquisition Institute. They lift the curtain on past performance. So go and learn more, hear what the people who are in the chair actually say. One of the other tools that we've also learned and adapted and reflected our clients' experience, we encourage you to create a chart, an internal spreadsheet of your past performance and experience so that your sales team and you have examples right at your fingertips, all easily searched by keywords. So when someone says, have you ever done business with IRS, or have you ever done business in the desert, or have you ever done a project that's over 500,000 square feet, you'll know, and you can find it quickly. It may take time to get it together. If you have never done this, it is super powerful. And if you don't have a chart like this, I want to encourage you to make that a big priority for your new year, because it's going to mean that your sales team has information they need right at their fingertips. It also means that you'll be able to quickly access examples of relevant past performance when you're writing proposals. You'll have all the details there. And you'll be able to choose some examples of the past performance to do a bigger write-up, both internally so that you can cut and paste into the proposal experience section, but also to use in developing a 1 or 2 page case study story. And because you're here, one of the bonus materials I have for you is 3 steps to write a great federal case study. So that link is here, and it'll also be in the follow-up email that you're going to get. So Eileen, real quick in the home stretch, how do we get in front of people? We talked about the principles that boil out of your stories. Think about people who have problems most similar to your best commercial customers. Press releases, that's a hidden in plain sight source of fabulous leads. Do you have a story about when a press release opened a door for you?
Yes, actually, and it wasn't a press release that I wrote. I actually was looking at seeing the facility manager at the Capitol. I thought I'd be bold. I mean, I already talked to the White House. I already talked to the Senate, right? So I might as well go to the Capitol. What the heck? So I went to the Capitol website, and early in my career, I was a public information officer, a journalist who did all the press releases for the agency. So I went straight to the Capitol press page, their media page, and I started to read all their press releases, because many times press releases at a agency website is sprinkled with people's names. And there's always a for more information because they think the media is going to call them with a question. So I saw that for more information and I called the person. And this woman picks up the phone and I said, hey, I'm reading your press release at your website. And of course, it's something she wrote. So she goes, oh, you're reading my press release? And I said, yeah, I know what it's like, how hard it is. She goes, no one ever reads my stuff. I said, oh, it's so beautifully written. It was a story about William Pisagno, who saved the Capitol from being eaten by termites. Okay, he didn't save it, Orkin did. But Orkin recognized him, worked with their media team, wrote a story about it, and now this guy's name is going to go down in history as saving the Capitol. His grandchildren are going to be able to talk about it. So I said, well, I see there's a gentleman, William Pisagno, listed on, oh yeah, Billy. I go, yeah, Billy. And she goes, let me connect you. Boom, Billy here. And again, shocked, right? Billy, yeah, I heard you saved the Capitol. He goes, I did. I said, well, can I come in and see it? And you show it to me? And he said, you can't come in, but I'll meet you at Capitol South, which is a metro stop by the Capitol. He met me at Capitol South. He walked me in to the Capitol and he gave me the full facility manager's tour. I got to look out onto the mall from the dome, you know, where you can kind of see through and it's all those windows at the top. You can stand up there and look out on Washington, D.C. I was this close to the dome painting, and I got to do that background tour. So a press release posted at the website, and I called the person who wrote it, complimenting her because she's a journalist and she loves having things read. And I see a name. Hey, do you know this person? Yes, she does. She interviewed him. And happily, she's going to connect you because you're a taxpayer. You're not asking a formal FOIA request. She knows everybody in the building. And if you compliment her and say, hey, can you connect me with Billy? Sure, connect. So yeah, I use press releases all the time at the websites to find the people I'm looking for in facilities, in IT, in HR, because there's all kinds of ribbon cuttings that happen and hiring events and contracting officers winning awards. So the PR person is going to write about it. And the names and numbers and pictures of people are going to be right there. So that's a great way to find leads.
Fabulous. Especially if you're listening to this and you're in information technology or professional services, but in offering any product or service, we strongly suggest you check out a website called GovLoop. It's kind of social media for Govies, but they have a daily awesome. It's filled with stories of pain, filled with stories of stars, people who have great ideas and innovation. So if you want to get a sense of how the Govies talk to each other and who's doing great work, log on there. It's free, and even as a contractor, you can still get an ID and even participate in the conversation. So what do we talk about? What are the kinds of things that you can expect people to be willing to talk about right out of the box, Eileen? Do they start with business, or how do people, what do we do?
Right. The big shocker that you're going to find the first time you sit down with federal employees. Now, if you do it face to face, there's going to be some interesting things that will happen. They tend to talk personal stuff first. It's pretty surprising. For example, William Pisagno, when he brought me into the Capitol, he took me to his office and his phone rang. And he goes, oh, I got to take this phone call. And he sat there for 5 minutes negotiating his mortgage. I knew his credit rating. I knew he was borrowing $5,000 from his mother-in-law. I sat there and watched him negotiate. No kidding. Another time, someone was having their lunch. They said, I hope you don't mind if I eat lunch at my desk. And we sat down and he reached out to me with his hands. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? I'm in corporate. And I reached to his hands and he grabs my hand and we prayed over his Swanson dinner. I've been in so many different meetings with so many different people, and it always starts with some sort of personal story. In fact, recently, Judy, I was in a webinar like this with a client one-on-one, and you're going to be kind of uncomfortable when you get online with the government employees. They tend not to come on view. Just don't take it personally. They tend not to show their video. They'll bring in their voice and they'll watch your PowerPoint. But anyway, we had this administrator where the woman that was doing the presentation and the administrator, he was like, she was telling her background. He's like, wait a minute, New Jersey, where'd you grow up? And where'd you live? Turned out they lived like 5 houses from each other. Unbelievable. So they ended up for 45 minutes talking about the neighborhood, and then the PowerPoint had to be 10 minutes and out, right? So you're going to be surprised, but the conversations are going to be personal first, because many of them are holding back their situations until they trust you. So they actually throw out the personal stuff that they can talk about, and they hold back the project stuff they can't talk about until they realize they trust you 100%. Then they start sharing with you their pains about what's going on at work.
And that's going to take multiple conversations. You might have a list of questions as long as your arm and said, fine, well, let's just answer all these questions and then we can get on with the sale. No. Sometimes, and especially we are still recovering for some very hard times. There has never been a more powerful and important time to listen to the tone in someone's voice and say, hey, before we jump in, is this still a good time to talk? I know we set this call. Are you okay? And you may have just heard, there's just your spider sense tingle as going, they just don't sound like they sound distracted, or they sound really sad. I had this conversation with a prospect. I said, oh, I'm at a funeral now. I said, please be with your family. We will catch up. Please accept my condolences. That call could wait for another day. There's nothing about pushing through with your agenda that triumphs over theirs. So change the game for good. As we wrap up, there are 3 different things to keep in mind when you want to leverage corporate past performance to win in federal. The first is focus. Focus on federal agencies and programs that, whether you're doing this qualitatively, just kind of thinking over coffee with you and your team, but who's got problems in a federal agency that are places that you're already got a footprint or most similar to commercial clients that you're doing business with now, or you can do it the quantitative way and go and get data, which is what Eileen and I do with precision, so that people can make a decision with confidence on where to focus. Whether you do it qualitatively or quantitatively, choose with confidence. Second, make connection. Connect with federal end users whose responsibilities are most similar to the people that you're already working with, who know you and love you and trust you. Sometimes they know each other. Just because somebody works in the commercial sector doesn't mean they don't talk to their opposite numbers in government. There are lots of places where people in the same industry, public and private sector, get together and have coffee. Society of American Military Engineers is one really good one, about which more another day. But finally, and listen to the theme from Eileen's stories, consistency. In regular contact to deepen trust, lower risk, and find small initial projects, even small things you can do for free to bring value and results. And we've covered a lot. What it takes to navigate in the federal sea, what federal buyers love about your past performance, how to get conversations started, and 3 keys to turn corporate success into federal wins. We shouldn't have favorite children, but I think of all the webinars we've done this year, Eileen, I think this is one of my favorites. I love everything I learned from your stories. There's just so much. And it's time for action. So I want to ask you to drop in the chat or the Q&A based on what you've learned today. What do you commit to do, and by when? If you're listening to the recording, make a commitment to yourself to get the return on your investment of time. Make a choice, take an action for the near future. In the meantime, we always close with resources. Attendee bonus number 1, how to win your meeting and get invited back. Everything about sales and selling, I want you to think of it as establishing and continuously renewing consent to be in connection. I'm going to say that again. Sales is the art of continuously renewing consent to be in connection. And so how do you get that first meeting, and what do you have to do to get back in? 20-minute on-demand webinar, it's waiting for you. Our second bonus, we have something you can download right away on the steps to write a fabulous federal case story. This is kind of a high level, 1 or 2 page story. It can be online in PDF. You can, if you still print things, you might bring it to a meeting, but that'll let you highlight some of the best stories that you can get in front of. The links are now in the chat. Leah's putting them there for us. Thank you. And finally, if you want to get in front of your ideal federal buyer and close more business, federal business faster, click here to grab the QR code, download the full syllabus and the description of how Eileen and I have worked with dozens of company teams and help them find the success that you might be looking for in the months ahead. Are we a fit to work together? I do a limited number of meetings with qualified companies every month. You can apply for a federal business breakthrough call, and my promise to you is that you will come away with at least 3 ideas for practical things you can do right now. That's it. I have a book and a workbook, Amazon #1 bestseller, Government Contracts Made Easier, because easy is fiction. Easier we can do, and we do every day. And please respond to the survey. When we log off, you're going to get a survey in your email box. Let us know what we did well, what else you need to know about. We'd love to get in touch, hear more of your questions. Real quick, if you have a question now, drop it in the chat. Thank you, Connie. Glad you found this was informative and easy listening. Yeah, learning things doesn't have to be painful. You know, when people work with us, they have the most fun they've ever had talking about and winning federal business ever. That's our secret agenda when we're working with our clients. Eileen Kent, thank you for joining us, for being part of our community, for bringing success to so many of our clients. We look forward to working with you in the months ahead with new teams.
It's my pleasure, Judy. It's always just a great day when I get to spend time with you. Thank you.
Leah Edwards, we look forward to you sharing how you can help folks who are looking for support in appointment making and call teams. Please let people know more about Transcendent Marketing as well. We look forward to working with all of you listening live and on the recording in the months to come. We want you to have a life you love, in a business you love, serving a country you love. Let's make that happen together. Thanks, and we're so glad you joined us. And I'm out. Thank you, sweetie. That looks